We're going to start today with our land acknowledgement. Veg Networking Canada acknowledges that our members' businesses from coast to coast are on traditional, unceded territories of Indigenous peoples, and there is much more work that we must do to honor these lands and these peoples. Welcome to Veg Networking Canada, where vegan plant-based professionals connect and collaborate. We have an amazing special guest with us today who has his bachelor's in food science and MBA in innovation and entrepreneurship from UBC. He's also paid it forward with volunteering and mentorship at UBC. He has applied his skills at companies like Dea Foods and Vega. Now he is the CEO of a newly traded public company on the Canadian Securities Exchange under the ticker YUM, Y-U-M. Today, we welcome the CEO of Komo Plant-Based Foods, Inc., Jeffrey Ma. Welcome, Jeffrey.
Thanks, Justin. Good to be here.
We're going to jump right in with our first question for you, which is, what is your vegan plant-based story as an individual, not as a business?
Yeah, good question. For me, I grew up in Vancouver, born and raised here. I grew up around food. My parents used to own a restaurant, a Chinese restaurant locally in Vancouver. So, food in the Chinese culture was a huge thing. So I grew up around food. I actually, thinking back, I never knew anyone that was vegan or plant-based. Maybe just two people, but they were Buddhists. So I always associated plant-based with Buddhism and would never think like, why would anyone go plant-based other than being Buddhist? So for me, my food journey, I obviously was very interested in food and cooking. And then when I went to UBC for school, I went into food science, so became a food scientist myself, and then worked at my first job out of school is Dea Foods. Dea at that time was growing immensely fast. They at that time around 5 years old, the company, and it was launching innovation, their cheese products, their pizza, yogurt, and everything. So I joined at a very exciting time at Dea Foods, and was really exposed to plant-based foods and the plant-based food industry. For me, being in that industry, I was really just attracted to just the innovation, not so much at that time, being plant-based, but, I wanted to do something creative. I wanted to really leading edge in the food industry, and plant-based was it, at that time, and even today for sure. But over 9 years, I worked at Dea and worked at Vega in the plant-based food industry. Finally learning the benefits of plant-based, not just to my health, to obviously animals and the planet. I made the switch, and then I'm still pretty newly plant-based. I'm approaching my 1 year. Throughout the 9 years, I've done 30-day 30-day challenges here and there, and but I've always wanted to do it, and I think COVID definitely helped, having more time at home to cook and experiment, and also getting my dog helped. Finally, I wouldn't eat my dog, so why would I consume another animal? That was clear, that was simple, and that really kind of helped me make the jump. And it's definitely hasn't been easy. Obviously there's things that I miss. There's things, one thing that I really miss sometimes is just, being able to share food with my family. And, in my culture, sharing food is such a big part of it. And, that's some of the pain points that I really try to bring into Komo as we build it.
Wow. So 1 year, nothing to sneeze at. And like you said, 30 days, 60-day stints here and there along the way and everything. And that's the great thing about this group. We're all on our own journey, and we just love hearing people's stories. And so second question is, what's your entrepreneur story? And it kind of sounds like from what you talked about, maybe you got that entrepreneur bug from your parents with their restaurant. And so yeah, tell us when you actually decided to become a real entrepreneur, have your own company, what was that spark for you?
Yeah, my dad's very entrepreneurial. He had restaurants. Some of them didn't work out, but he always tried to figure out new businesses to kind of support the family. So he always was looking for, ways to grow a business and opportunities in the market. So I definitely grew up with that. But I think, growing up, I never thought I would be an entrepreneur. I thought I would have an office job and just be okay with a stable job, because entrepreneurship is crazy, right? Entrepreneurship is just very unstable. And then for me, joining Daya, joining Vega, being able to see these brands grow, and more importantly, really add value to consumers. Daya being one of the pioneers in plant-based cheese. We at that time we got so much feedback from consumers saying, "Oh, you changed our life. You made our life so much easier. Thank you, thank you, thank you." And seeing that feedback, that you can build something from scratch, with passion, with the right people, and a good product, and you can really add value to people's lives. That kind of sparked something in me. And the two companies I think are a bit different in terms of Daya Foods. They really lead with product innovation, and at Vega they built a really strong brand around plant-based nutrition. So taking that with me, when I was at Vega, I started a very small local company called Schmear Naturals. So Schmear Naturals, they do wholesome skincare made with real food. And that was something that was like, okay, let's just start it. Let's try it out. We started on Etsy selling, and then we started our own Shopify site and are in around 50 little independent stores. So that was kind of my first, dipping my toes in the water for entrepreneurship. So that was 3 years ago. And then I decided to do my MBA. I know how to build a great product. I want to know how to build a great brand. And that was really my purpose of going to MBA. And coming out of the program, I'm like, my passion's food, and I want to go back into it. And I became plant-based in the process. So I want to start a plant-based food company. So that's really kind of where Komo came about. Is my intention was to start a plant-based food company. I met one of the founders for Komo. His name is William White. William, he works in the capital markets. So he had the same intention of starting a plant-based food company. We met and we decided to launch Komo Comfort Foods. And that was, I started in December and we launched our brand in March.
That's such a great story, and hearing that it started with the wholesome skincare and now is what it is. And you're right. Earlier you were mentioning the pain point you were solving about sort of the ethos behind Komo and breaking bread with family and loved ones and being able to share food and enjoy it and it to be delicious and everything. So great entrepreneur story. With your business, I know that you have an amazing team, a very educated and smart team. So what are some trends in your industry right now?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I've been in the plant-based industry for almost 10 years, and it's definitely very exciting. You see a lot of brands growing, obviously, and from really small brands to really big, really quickly. And I think Vancouver obviously is this hub of plant-based brands. There's Gardein, there's Daya, there's Vega, Very Good Butchers recently. That's really coming out of the West Coast, Canada, which is amazing to see. In terms of trends, ones that we focus on, and I've seen throughout the 10 years, is really a keen focus on whole foods. And I think that's something that would never go away, whether you call it clean eating, whether you call it, I don't know, Whole30 or whole food plant-based. I think that's something that would never go away because it's really very much tied to food transparency, tied to health. And I think increasingly, as people incorporate more plant-based food into their diets, they're going to be more, there's going to be more scrutiny on the ingredients that are used in these foods. I mean, I think the first wave of, the cheeses and the meats have been great, really trying to mimic the animal counterpart. But now that I think as people get more used to these products, they're going to be like, oh, well, what's actually in it, right? The term frankenfood, I'm sure you've heard of it, that is born is that, I think companies do whatever they can, whatever additives they can or technology to mimic the animal counterpart. But, talking to your consumers and talking to people on the plant-based journey, I think as they get further along, they start to, and I'm sure you guys have your own story as well, kind of move away from too many of these kind of extruded products or these products that really try to mimic meat and incorporate more whole foods, things that made with beans or made with more vegetables with more clean ingredient lists. So that's definitely a big trend we see. At Komo, we aim for three things. I always mention easy, wholesome, and hearty, and we try not to compromise on that. So easy, we want to make sure things are convenient. our products, like their lasagna, shepherd's pie, chicken pot pie, you can stick in the oven for an hour and it's ready to go. Wholesome, we want to make sure ingredients are good, recognizable. I put we have a chef in our team, and then we work together very closely as a food scientist to make sure things are, we use good ingredients, and that is at the same time is scalable and hearty. That goes back to kind of food satisfaction. That's again one of the pain points that I have going vegan is, I don't love salad, or like I don't love I want something that's very hearty, wholesome, and fulfilling. So we really focus on those foods, hence the comfort foods. But yeah, sorry, long answer about whole foods. That's a big one that I see that was never going to go away. And gluten free, I think, people say it's a trend, but I don't think it's something that will go away either. That's something we get asked all the time is, can you make our lasagna gluten free? Currently it's not. We do have some gluten free products, and that's something that I really need to think about, because our products are not all gluten free. I'm not gluten free myself, and sometimes forcing something to be gluten free can make it not as satisfying at this point with the technology that we have. So it's a balance of that. So for us, I think we're not going to be gluten free as a brand, but we'll definitely have a lot of options that are
Definitely. And you're right, that's not going away. People suffer from celiac. There's the Gluten-Free Expo, which is a really, really fun event that not a lot of us have been able to go to in quite some time.
Yeah.
Whole Foods for sure. And I think you guys are on to a consumer trend from like a psychology standpoint about sharing food. I think that's really cutting edge in a way that's not about the ingredients or the packaging. It's a more
true.
Yeah. So
yeah.
In terms of where you guys are going in the future, maybe geographically, maybe with other products we don't know about that you want to tell us about for the first time. We don't know, but where's Komo going in the future?
Yeah. I'm just going to touch upon your point about sharing food. That's definitely one of the consumer insights we really try to solve, or problems we're trying to solve is right now, if a plant-based consumer, plant-based family wants to enjoy a plant-based meal, what are the options? They cook, which, if you're new to plant-based, it could take a lot of effort. You get takeout, which could be obviously very expensive, or you get frozen vegan pizza. There's really nothing out there in the market that serves a group of people, a family, that's easy, that you'll feel good about the ingredients, that you're going to be satisfied. So that's the problem, the niche we're trying to get into with our meals. That's something, and food is really about sharing, right? Things taste better when you're sharing it versus having your own side dish. I'm sure we've all been there and done that. So in terms of where our brand is going, product innovation 100% is going to be a keen focus for our brand moving forward. That's my background. That's the background of the team. And because there's also so much opportunity in this space. So we launched in March. Right now we do direct to consumer, we do wholesale as well. So we're in a few retailers locally, just in BC right now. But really what direct to consumer allows us to do is have that communication with consumers, build that email list so we can actually have contact with our consumers and launch products really quickly. What I see is, Vancouver is going to be our what we call it, our test market. Whenever we launch a product, we're going to launch it in Vancouver first at small scale, and then, find a co-packer or scale up that product once we get feedback and that we're ready to go. So that's kind of the phase 1, phase 2, from March till now, that's kind of what we call our phase 1. We tested the product, we put it out there, we got feedback, we got a lot of reviews, people telling us, they want gluten-free, people telling us, they don't like this component or this ingredient. So now we can take that feedback and work it into the next phase. So the next phase, we're finding a co-packer to help scale our production. We're definitely looking to expand distribution to other provinces. So that's actively in the work, and I hope I can share more information soon. We'll be definitely excited to share that. And then new products, again, always working on it. I can't share what it is, but there's definitely products that we're thinking about.
Well, safe to say that it's going to be easy, wholesome, and hearty, right? So
exactly.
That's great. So maybe I know that you've done, I wouldn't call it charity work, but with your volunteering and your mentorship, like you've done that in your past with UBC, but is there anything you or the team at Komo is doing to support any charitable organizations?
Yeah, we haven't actually actioned on anything yet, to be honest. But there's definitely discussions that are happening as to which charity we're going to support. We definitely want to do it. We want to support local. I mean, our launch has been hyper localized to the Lower Mainland, so we definitely want to support a local charity. Myself, that's the work I've done before in terms of mentoring, and I definitely want to do more of that. I think there's a lot of people. A lot of people with a lot of ideas, and that passion is really important for entrepreneurship. But in terms of the know-how of how to launch a business, even from a small scale on whether it's Etsy or like a larger scale going public, I think there's a lot of information or value I can provide somebody. And yeah, I've done quite a bit of that before, whether students or with another organization. And yeah, definitely looking to do more of that in the future.
Yeah, that's real impact. Absolutely, for sure. So maybe there's a couple for each, or just one is totally fine. But what is a book, podcast, or app that you would recommend to other business owners and entrepreneurs?
So I've been one of my favorite books is called Flow. It's called The Psychology of Optimal Experience. It's basically breaking down how you get into your flow state. And your flow state is when you lose track of time because you're so dedicated to you're so involved in what you're doing, and that's when amazing work happens. So it's kind of like a self-help book, but at the same time, it talks about how you create flow states for your employees, for your consumers, which is really important for just like enjoyment and happiness and all that. So that's one of my favorite books. In terms of podcasts, I love How I Built This. Obviously, just hearing the stories of other entrepreneurs. HBR Idea Cast, that's always a good one. In terms of apps, the app 5 Minute Journal I've been using recently, just because being an entrepreneur, it's like always go go go, and I feel like I don't take enough time to just appreciate what has been done or what we've accomplished and just take a breather. So that kind of stops me for 5 minutes, so I can document it and then look back when a year later or whatnot.
Amazing answers. And I'm so glad Sandra's here, the content doctor. She's taking notes and we'll summarize it in an email to all the members who couldn't be with us on the call today. So really great, unique tips there. So thank you for that. So maybe big, maybe small, maybe you work with them, maybe you don't, but what are some companies that inspire you?
Yeah, for me, Miyokos is a big one. I think Miyokos, obviously they started as quite a small brand. I remember seeing them at Natural Expo West, just with a tabletop, doing really, really good cheeses, nut-based cheeses. But I think what I really like about her brand is she's able to balance kind of advocacy and really blend that into her brand and be very successful with her brand and have really amazing products at the same time that can scale across not just natural, but like mass channels as well. So I think that advocacy is super important, and I think companies just don't do enough of. In our brand, we want to incorporate more of it as well. And it's obviously, I think it's a balance of like, you don't want to offend, at the same time, we want to offend consumers that are, not fully vegan or really, but at the same time, you want to have a voice. So that's a balance that we need to work through. But at the same time, we definitely want to have some advocacy in our brand. And I see it as a strength as well. We see a lot of CPG, like big CPGs companies coming into plant-based because of the money, right? There's a lot of opportunity, but I don't think they can have the advocacy voice, at least for animals, because they have non-plant-based food brands, on the other side of the wall. So I think that as new brands, small brands that are actually dedicated to veganism or plant-based, it's a strength to actually talk about those issues.
It is, and that's such a great choice. Miyoko is such a original in the movement, and similar to Komo, providing a food that you share with people,
Yeah.
and having advocacy. You're right, coming from a lens of just it is what it is. So that's amazing, and we're all looking forward to how that transpires for Komo for sure. All right, so we're at our 8th question, and it's always prefaced. You have a lot of experience, so please do share any advice for entrepreneurs, business owners, or anything else that we missed and didn't get a chance to talk about.
Yeah, passion. I think one of my advice is passion. Make sure you're passionate what you're doing. I think people come into plant-based space thinking, hey, it's plant-based, there's money to be made, which there is. But at the same time, building a business is a lot of work. It's a lot of work day in and day out. And if you don't have the passion actually for it, you're going to lose steam. You're going to lose. And, for me, from our team, definitely I see periods where we're in a sense overworked, but really our mission of sharing more plant-based food, making plant-based food a staple at every dinner table, that's really our goal, really helps drive us. And what we see is we use food as our point of advocacy to connect people to the planet, to encourage more kindness to animals and people in our planet. So that's definitely something that drives me, gets me going every day, even though it's a lot. So having that passion and being clear on what is your why is very important. The second piece of advice that I give is progress is better than perfection. Whether it's somebody with a cool idea or somebody looking to, that already has products, looking to launch more products, it's just do it. Try to do it at a small scale that you don't have to risk a lot or spend a lot of money, and just test your idea, test it out and get feedback and iterate. Because I think you'll never get to a perfect product to launch. You're gonna have to keep iterating your products. And lastly, I think one thing that we really try to build with Komo is just authenticity. I think consumers, especially on social, I'm not sure if you've seen our Instagram, but we try to kind of take consumers along with how we're building this business, and this authenticity is super important to our brand. We always say, like, real people, real food. Show the people behind the food, because consumers are smart and they're able to see through kind of companies trying to be perfect or trying to hide something. So take people on that journey, because it is an exciting journey. Why not share it? And it's good content. So authenticity. And I think a brand that does a really good job of that is Midday Squares, which I think you guys talked to one of the owners. Is they really focus on authenticity, sharing their story, the good and the bad, and they build what they call a tribe, right? And that's like amazing marketing that you can't pay for.
Yes, you're in good company. We got to sit down with Leslie from Midday Squares. So this is Veg Network in Canada is turning into something so great, having special guests like you. So thank you so much. So it's passion, it's progress is better than perfection, and that authenticity, transparency, documentation process. Because you're right. That's what people really want to see. So thank you so much for spending some of your time before you get back to it today with us. Everybody, it's Jeffrey Ma, the CEO of Komo Plant-Based Foods Inc. Again, that's Komo Plant-Based Foods Inc. And the website is komocomfortfoods.com, and their Instagram is the same at Komo Comfort Foods. Thank you so much for joining us today, Jeffrey, and have a wonderful day.
Thank you for having me.